Kompany has had a weird managerial career. Amazing at Burnley and got them into the Premier League, then not so great and got Burnley relegated from the Premier League. Now he's up to a lot of crazy things in the Bundesliga. In a good way, with the Bavarians top of the table, but also in a bad way, because there are some warning signs of problems to come. But let's start with the good. It's a 4-2-3-1 on paper, but the game isn't played on paper, because Kompany's shape adapts across the pitch. The Bundesliga is generally a press-heavy league, so maintaining a back two would make it easier for opposition to apply pressure in a variety of ways. One of Bayern's standout features is Kompany's contingency plan for this. The centre-backs will spread wide, extremely wide, and what this does is force the opposition from their nice, solid, compact defensive shape into one with a lot more passing lanes potentially open. But teams rarely do this for a few reasons. It increases the gap between the centre-backs, making it difficult to switch the point of attack through passing. The gap also increases the isolation of each centre-back, meaning a well-drilled press can swarm a single centre-back and force a turnover. And when there is a turnover, there's a chasm to attack into. Exhibit A. Against Wolfsburg, Bayern are in controlled possession. The centre-backs are wide and Neuer begins to push up, though this time Kimmich does drop in. What's important is that Kim Min-jae is isolated, so all it takes is one Wolfsburg man pressing effectively, causing a turnover, and now, well, Neuer's out of position and Upamecano is so far away he might as well be in Austria, so Wolfsburg score easily. Kompany has been willing to take on this risk and even take it a step further by being incredibly aggressive with Neuer, who pushes up between the centre-backs so that now they do have the numerical overload in the first line. This shape deals with one of the problems discussed, as now having a third man means that when Neuer is on the ball, they can still switch the build-up direction easily, making them less predictable. And if the opposition defending shape is much more open, if they're trying to cover the centre-backs, Bayern now have another man who can play those piercing passes into the passing channels that have been created. But a word you should get used to when mentioning Kompanys Bayern is flexibility. We've seen how he uses one of his floating players, but the other, Jamal Musiala, is extremely important in the build-up phase. It's not always possible for Bayern to be front foot on the build-up and push Neuer this high, especially because some teams have looked to stop the Bavarians before they can even get into these situations through the high press. So at times they are forced to use a 2, and if the double pivots are covered as well, options for progression can begin to look scarce. And that's where we've seen Kompany try to make the most of Musiala's game intelligence. The young German can drop extremely deep, much deeper than we typically see attacking midfielders, to then create a 3 versus 2 here and help to play out. And sure, teams do follow him at times, but this does create a bit of a dilemma, because while this can potentially stop the Musiala threat, it leaves a gaping hole between the lines. This means that the Bayern wingers have the potential to move infield to receive the chip ball. But Harry Kane is also a threat because he loves dropping in and has the ability to hold off a man to then play in the quick wingers. And all of this is before even mentioning the fact that Musiala is one of the very best midfield dribblers in world football under pressure, and will shimmy past a presser effortlessly, meaning he now has plenty of room to attack the defense. Failing this though, Kompany still has an ace up his sleeve, because the centre-backs can spread wider in the build-up, and now this is an opportunity for one or both of the fullbacks to support the midfield in the build-up phase. This gives the Bavarians the best of both worlds, with the wingers remaining wide, Kane and Musiala staying higher where their attacking instincts can flourish, and all the while opening up new passing channels into the midfield region. So all of that is lovely build-up stuff, but the attacking phases from Kompany are just as fascinating. It's early days in his tenure, so what we have seen may be a combination of him figuring out his best tactics and patterns, or it might be the flexibility that he wants, especially in this attacking phase. The wingers tend to initially start wide, playing into one of Bayern's main approaches, the wide overload. When the winger picks up the ball, they are supported by the fullback, either on the overlap or as a passing option in the half space. Musiala, a midfielder, and often Kane are happy to come across to draw the opposition, providing the opportunity to then launch a switch to either the opposing winger or the opposing fullback. But the overloads also mean that Bayern can use quick passes to play through the opposition on this side. The side overloads are fantastic, however, the center of the pitch is where Kompany wants true dominance, with no side playing through the middle more than Bayern, though it is interesting to note that their attack is almost evenly distributed across the pitch, showing their unpredictability. Musiala, of course, continues to prove that he's not just a great young player, but just a great player in general. Whenever he gets the ball, his first thought is, can I go forwards, either through a dribble or a punishing pass to set up one of his teammates. This is supplemented by his partner in crime, Kane, who can also drop deep to be almost as effective a creator himself, looking to draw the centre-backs out to open up a defensive hole for Musiala to make the opposing movement into. But much like we saw at Spurs, Kane's custom made to work with wingers who don't mind running in behind. So as the forward drops and the space emerges behind the defense, Olise, Gnabry and Coman can be the beneficiaries of this movement. Werder Bremen were victims of this, with Musiala and Kane in deeper zones drawing the centre-backs towards them, allowing the winger, Olise, to make the unchallenged run. But one of the standout features of Kompany's Bayern is how much the wingers have thrived. This is because they do have a lot of fluidity. As discussed, they can stay wide with the opportunities for isolation, where the wingers can use their elite dribbling to get past their man. But Kompany is also keen to push the fullbacks on to provide the width like more traditional fullbacks, and that opens up opportunities. Both his wingers tend to be inverted, so they love operating in these inside channels, where the entirety of the pitch is opened up on their strong feet, allowing them to create, or having already cut in, they can unleash a shot. But Olise has played a pivotal role, as Kompany is keen to utilize his close control and cool head through the center of the pitch. So it's not just that Kompany wants to give him every opportunity to come central, to be a secondary attacking midfielder with Musiala. We've even seen him start Olise as an attacking midfielder against Freiburg. And he has thrived, because having more men close to each other in attacking positions means short distances and the opportunity for chance creation. He, Kane and Musiala have all shared zone 14 well, showing synergy rather than disrupting each other when they pick up the ball, so they bamboozle defenders and spread out the goal threat so that the lethal dagger can come from any attacker. The obvious disadvantage though is leaving only 2 players deep means that they're so vulnerable to the counter-attack. This is where things get a little dicey for Kompany's Bayern. While their high pressing system has been effective in pinning teams back when it works, when it doesn't, it also leaves them vulnerable, especially when that press is bypassed. Kompany's pressing philosophy is man-oriented, where each player aggressively pursues their man across the pitch. The shape varies, but the key principle is trying to force play through the middle of the pitch, where they can then contract around the ball. This is usually through a front two pressing the centre-backs from out to in, and this has been the wingers at times when Bayern are being ultra-aggressive, with Kane covering the centre so that Bayern are forcing the ball into the middle. When it works, it's great. When it doesn't, well, if the first line of pressure is bypassed, the wide regions are the most vulnerable, with either a midfielder jumping and leaving room there, or more likely the fullback jumping. This now means that the defense is coming across, which leads to a higher risk situation. The centre-back stops the attack, or the forward gets past them, and most probably gets a high-quality opportunity. Bayern have already tweaked this shape, looking for a solution, with Kane instead pushing with a winger, meaning they can still go man-to-man in the midfield, and are slightly less vulnerable in the wider region, as one of the wingers is deep. This issue was most evident in their match against Wolfsburg, where Bayern's high press left them vulnerable to long balls and quick transitions. It's early days yet, but the Kompany era has started promisingly. But what do you make of Bayern? Drop it down below. And for a look at another new manager doing well, check out this video, examining Flick's Barcelona.